And ladies and gentlemen, at 30 minutes after the hour, you're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network and your host, Antonin Feori of the Crimson Pill. Thank you for coming back. I want to finish reading and quoting from this article of 2005 in the USA Today. Once again, as before, some advocates of Social Security changes say the trust fund contains no money, only IOUs that the government owes itself. True. Although Hollenbach notes, and once again we're talking about Pete Hollenbach, who at least at that time was spokesman for the U.S. Bureau of Public Debt, it is true. Although Hollenbach notes, quote, "We've always paid our obligations on time," unquote. Folks, that's the same once again with that family member or that friend of yours who's borrowed money. Well, there comes a moment in time when suddenly those obligations don't get paid on time. What Hollenbach is admitting to here is that, in fact, there is no trust fund, there is no vault, there is no piggy bank. It is nothing but promises to repay. And folks, how have those promises from Treasury Secretary Geithner, how have those promises from the Federal Reserve Bank, how have those promises from interim President Obama been working out for us over the course of these last couple of years? I want to finish the last paragraph of this article because it points to the dire, and I do mean dire, set of circumstances that we are in right now. Official forecasts, keep in mind this was a projection made in 2005. Official forecasts by the Social Security trustees estimate that in 2018, the trust funds will begin taking in less payroll tax revenue than they need in order to pay Social Security benefits. If in your head right now the words Ponzi scheme are jangling around, you're absolutely on track, listeners. Bernie Madoff and his Ponzi scheme is absolutely no different whatsoever than what they have made out of Social Security in these last couple of decades. I continue now from the article. By 2042, estimates are that the trust funds will be empty and the system dependent on the daily tax receipts to meet obligations. Now, forget about that 2042 number, folks, because there will be no Social Security system at all whatsoever by then. In fact, you have a lot of very, very solidly based research that suggests that by that point in time, they probably likely will have already raided our private retirement fund accounts. I'm talking 401ks and the other. Yeah, if you are hearing that information for the first time, folks, tune into it because that's what's coming next. They've already taken all of our Social Security trust fund. What they're coming for next are your own personal and private ones. And if you think that that's not possible, you've got another thing coming to you, America. So forget about the 2042 number. Think about 2018. I want you to think about that because that was a projection made in 2005. And yet, now I quote from a Fortune and CNNMoney.com article by Alan Sloan dated Thursday, February 4th, 2010. Don't look now, but even as the bank bailout is winding down, another huge bailout is starting. This time, for the Social Security system. A report from the Congressional Budget Office shows that for the first time in 25 years, Social Security is taking in less in taxes than it is spending on benefits. Instead of helping to finance the rest of the government as it has done for decades, our nation's biggest social program needs help from the Treasury to keep benefit checks from bouncing. In other words, a taxpayer bailout. Folks, in 2010, the projection in 2005 is that it would take until 2018 before we would not have enough dollars flowing into the Ponzi scheme to keep meeting the obligations for the checks that go out. But no, due to the economic collapse by design, not by accident, it's not some natural disaster. Due to the economic collapse by design, it began to happen in 2010, 8 years ahead of schedule, that we had to borrow the money to make the payouts for Social Security. And at the time this article was written, the projection was, quote, "This means that without interest income, Social Security will be $28 billion in the hole for this fiscal year, which ends September 30th. That projection was made in February of 2010. By the time we closed the books on that and we realized once again how much less revenue came in due to the fact that Americans are unemployed and underemployed, that number wasn't just $28 billion. It's estimated that it's closer to $60 or $65 billion that had to be borrowed in order to meet those outlays for Social Security. Folks, the piggy bank has been shattered for 2.5 decades. And I think that we have a caller on the line. I've got much more information to cover here, but I'm very interested to hear from Lee in Oregon. Lee in Oregon, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I sure can. Lee, I'd just like to say thanks for calling in. Welcome to the show. And what's on your mind, Lee?
Thanks for taking my call. I've been thinking about what you were talking about Social Security, and I've always thought it was a very curious thing to do to be dependent on someone else for my own retirement and vice versa. It's just a ridiculous notion.
Lee, I wonder if I could ask, maybe roughly how many years does it make that you have been contributing to the Social Security quote-unquote trust fund?
Well, I'm almost 40 now, so, ever since I started, maybe 20 years at least.
Okay. And what are your feelings, Lee, as you think about your future? Do you think that you'll ever receive a Social Security check?
No, I'm just, I think most Americans, they should operate now under the notion that they're not going to get their 401ks, their IRAs, or their Social Security. They should just. Bob Chapman actually talks about the government's already talking about 401ks and IRAs.
That's an excellent point. I appreciate you mentioning that, Lee. Yes, for anyone out there who your cognitive dissonance tried to make your head say no, 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 when I talked about the fact that they are coming for your private retirement investment accounts. That includes your 401k. That includes some of the pensions. They're coming for that. And if you want more information, Lee, thanks for pointing out, because Bob Chapman is an excellent subject matter expert on that topic. Lee, did you realize that they have been slowly increasing the ages for the payouts for Social Security, and that one of the things that they've got on their plate right now, folks that are in the age ballpark range of you and I, already we would have to wait until we're 67 before we can collect full benefits. But part of what's happening, once again, under the table in these discussions out there, they're keeping it quiet right now, is raising that threshold to the age of 68 or 69 for folks your and I age. Now, as we've just mentioned, you and I probably both agree that we won't see a check anyway. But how does that make you feel to see them playing this kind of game when we've been paying into the system for as long as we have? We're never going to see it anyway, and they continue to play this game. How does that make you feel as a tax-paying citizen?
I honestly, I don't have any feelings anymore. My senses have become so politically dull that I just, when I hear this kind of stuff like debt ceiling and talks about raising limits, it's just all talk to me. It's just noise now. It doesn't have any meaning to me anymore because I already know what's happening at the end. Okay. I'm already assuming there's nothing at the end of the tunnel.
Well, Lee, I can certainly empathize with that. All of this horrific and quite calculated evil that's being foisted upon us. After a time, after staring into the face of this serpent, of this evil, it can become a little overwhelming. But Lee, one thing I'd like to propose to you is that, as we've seen with special ops conducted all throughout the course of the last century, one major component of those special operations, and I believe that that's what this is, it is a psyop. It's a psychological operation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And that's right. And I believe they're using the media to try to deaden us, to try to make us so overwhelmed that what we do is we shut down and we turn away. And so, Lee, while I empathize with how you're feeling about that, can I ask you, can you think, whether it's just yourself or whether it's folks in your community or whether it's something I might be able to do by way of this show, what can we do to start making a difference? Rather than just shutting down, what can we do to make a difference?
I don't know. I just, personally, I don't see any way out other than individuals and individual families preparing themselves. And then for those who are willing to listen, helping those people along with information. And
I think that's very well said. Step number one is to become informed for oneself. Inform yourself. Listen to Bob Chapman. Listen to Republic Broadcasting Network and the many hosts and guests that make expositions on these subjects. I fully agree, Lee. Step number one is arm yourself with knowledge, and then make the folks around you knowledgeable, and continue.
And I guess the second step is making other people knowledgeable. But I found that to be very difficult, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of shut down. Is because I can't deal with people anymore. I can't even talk to them about these kinds of issues. They're so this stupidity in this country is almost astounding now to me. I was talking to some guy the other day about investments, and he told me he makes about $70,000 a year, and he says, and we're both saying, oh, that's not bad. You still have a job. That's a decent amount of money, but it's not a lot of money. And I said, why don't you invest in gold or silver? He says, oh yeah, I already know about that. And so I asked him, why aren't you investing in it? And he repeated to me, oh yeah, I already know about that. And it just astounded me that, I mean, that's kind of the thing. That's kind of why I've kind of, I guess, given up, so to speak. That kind of conversation happens over and over again.
Well, Lee, I empathize with you once again, and I don't want to make too big a diversion here, or dive into the deep waters of philosophy. But
yeah.
One thing I would say is that from the Hindu path and system of beliefs, we are in what is referred to as the Kali Yuga,